I am Christy Campo, the president of the DFW Veterans Chamber, and today we are going to have our deep dive webinar. Irving, do you want to introduce our guest and our topic?
Yeah, so our topic this month is HR 101. And as we head into the spring, so many of our businesses are about growth, especially as we start to emerge from the pandemic in 2020. Personally, as a business owner, I'm hiring, I'm reworking compensation, I'm reworking a lot of processes we have in my business. And I felt that a lot of other people are in the same boat. So I brought to you Sarah Heath with your HR department. It's a full service, your payroll department. It's a full service payroll HR company, a great asset for anybody who has a small to medium sized business. I also brought to you Scott Neidecker, who's with US Health Advisors. And we all know the importance of having health benefits as part of our business offerings to our employees. So Scott will be bringing us some information about business plans for health insurance. So Sarah and Scott, welcome, and please.
Okay, so I'm going to get to go first.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone, for having me. Thank you to everyone who's watching this on your own. I appreciate you spending the time to do a little research on different solutions that could help you in your small to mid-sized business. So that's where we are here. We're your team of trusted advisors to help you through this process, because we know that when you are an entrepreneur, you have to wear so many hats. When you're a business owner or even decision maker within a business, you have to wear so many hats and be in charge of so many different things. It's impossible to keep up with everything and do all the things. So give yourself a little grace, give yourself a little space, and reach out to people who are there to genuinely help you succeed. So that's what we are here to do. I'm going to be able to share my screen, Christy. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. We're going to go through a presentation about common problems that common HR problems that business owners face, and some offer some solutions as well. That's going to be something, can't talk about problems without offering us some sort of solution. So that's what Scott and I are going to be here to do for you today. I'm going to go ahead and start off with some more common HR issues, kind of from soup to nuts, and then Scott can drill it down a little more specifically to talk about health benefits for your employees and how that affects the culture, the morale, and the health of everyone in your practice. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. And we're going to go here. And we're going to go here. I'm working on this. You'd think we would have this down by now. Please try again later. Here we go. Share screen.
There you go.
How about that? Okay, full screen. Okay, great. So I like a lot of our participation. So even if you're watching this at home, when I ask you to raise your hand and all those sorts of things, just go ahead and do it, because it's you're going to feel like you're here with us live. So I said common challenges that small business owners face. There's a lot of them, from security of your business, security of your employees, how to put a great product out at a great price and grow your business. There's a lot of things to cover. So that's what we're going to do. So a little bit about me first, so you know who you're talking with. I am Sarah Heath. I am the marketing director for Walton CPA and your payroll department. Those are two different entities that kind of work in connection with each other. Walton CPA is a CPA firm that serves small businesses with bookkeeping, accounting, tax prep, tax planning, and strategic advisement. And then we also have your payroll department, which is a full service payroll provider for small to mid-sized businesses. We do business all over the country. We currently process payroll in 20 different states. We are woman-owned and family-operated in Plano, Texas, members of the Plano Chamber of Commerce, and very involved in that chamber as well. We are passionate patriots. I would just use that term to describe ourselves. And we all have immediate family members and people that we know that are veterans. And we even have some staff members with children in active duty. So we are very happy to be here to present to our veterans group today, and we thank you all for your service to our country. There's my handsome husband and my cute little dog there. So we're just there's a part of the team doing our ribbon cutting. So that's kind of a little bit about who we are. Enough about me, let's talk about you. So common HR problems that you guys face. First often is when to hire. If you're starting off as a sole proprietor, how do you know when is a good time to add to your team? Who is a good person to add to your team? What sort of documents might you need when you hire someone? What benefits could you offer? How do you process payroll? What laws do you need to comply with and to keep everything documented and legal? And there's also a lot of conversations around COVID right now as well. So there's COVID specific HR issues, as well as an interesting topic I'm going to cover at the end about the COVID Relief Act. There's a lot of benefit dollars available for small to mid-sized businesses, and we don't want you to miss out on those funds. So if you've ever had to face any of these problems or multiple of these problems, raise your hand. If you've ever had to hire someone, if you've ever had to let someone go, if you've ever had questions around these ideas. Thank you very much for those hand raises. I like it. So we're going to solve some of these problems. So first of all, when to hire? How do you know when it's a good time to add to your team? Well, you kind of have a little bit of instinct here. You kind of know when you're spending time as a business owner doing those non-essential tasks. Is this something that you could outsource to someone or add to your team, someone who you trust that could do those tasks for you? If your customer service is suffering because you're just stretched too thin, you just can't do all the things. There's not enough time for me to call these people back. There's not enough time for me to spend with my clients because I'm working on my business, not in my business. Also, if you do have staff and they are conspicuously overworked, you see that they're stretched too thin, now's a great time to add to your team to get a little bit of help and support in there. So you also want to make sure that your business can afford to grow in size. What you don't want to do is kind of get one out of balance with the other. So you don't want to hire a bunch of people and then your business doesn't grow to meet that new obligation you have to pay these people. So if you don't ramp up enough to justify hiring these people, you may have to lay them off. So it's a kind of a delicate balance you have to strike of when is the right time to hire someone. You're going to know though. You're going to know when you need help. Who do you hire? So you have to hire the right person who's going to fit in with your company, who's going to represent your company well, and be able to add a lot of value to the tasks that you need them to do. So you're going to look for experience and impressive skills to fit the team, to fit the role that you need to fill. It's got to be a person to fit in with your company culture. As they're going to represent your business, represent your family, your product, your service. They have to fit in with that culture. And a lot of employers will recommend personality tests and especially background checks to make sure that this is the right person for the job. We offer background checks for our clients as well. So that's a service that is available. So when you're hiring someone, it's a two-way street. They've got to be the right fit for the job, but you've got to be the right fit for them as well. You've got to explain your company culture, your expectations, your values. You have specific behaviors related to the job description that are laid out very clearly. You need to stay open and objective and make decisions based on the merit of the person applying, obviously. And also you want to see if that candidate really does fit in with the rest of the team in the workplace. If you guys have any questions about, I've never even done a job interview before. What should I ask? What am I allowed to ask? What am I not allowed to ask a candidate? Those are very important things to know. Send me a message and ask me. We've got some great resources for you. It's a 14-page document of questions to ask during an interview. You don't have to ask all of them. Find the ones that are right for you, okay? So who to hire? That's important. Now, We're going to hire somebody. What kind of documents do we need? How do we go about doing this process? This is where it can get a little muddy. This is where you might need a little additional help. I-9 forms are required for anyone who works for you. That's the employment eligibility verification form. Includes people that work for you that are US citizens and also non-citizens. They still need to have an I-9 form. It just proves that they are who they are. And we need W-4s for employees and W-9s for contractors. If you're not sure which is which, that's a great number to call to find out. Employers must keep the following records for 3 years, and you can see those there. You got to keep payroll data for 3 years, FMLA leave, any notices received for employees, like bankruptcy notices or garnishment of any kind, notices to employees about any possible disputes or performance evaluations, employee benefit information, and also the I-9 forms need to be retained for 3 years. It's a lot of documents to have to keep track of. If you need any help, let us know. More documents that are needed. These are things that you can provide to your team to help set them up for success. Employee handbooks are a great way to set your team up for success. It introduces the employee to your culture, your mission, your values, what it is that you do at your company. It communicates what's expected. So this can eliminate a lot of headaches. We're like, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. Or I didn't know I was supposed to turn that in every 2 weeks. Or I didn't know that was part of my job description. All of these things can be laid out in an employee handbook, and it can help answer a lot of questions and prevent any issues from coming up because everything's laid out ahead of time. The best practice is for an employee to sign something that they have received the employee handbook and acknowledge the contents therein. That's something good to keep on hand as well. So you can reference that, say, hey, this was your job description. We let you know what's expected of you, and you signed that you had received it. Okay, you need that's an important thing to do. If you have any questions, just write those down. You can get them to me at the end. Benefits as well. So this is something that a lot of employers don't know if, how, what, how much, what sort of benefits can and should I offer to my team members. This is a great way to not only attract, but also retain your employees. And Scott's going to go over more of this in detail for you guys a little bit later. In the state of Texas, you're actually not required to offer benefits like PTO and paid vacation. If you do have it though, it's a huge perk to offer. Employees, potential employees and job applicants are looking for these sorts of things. They call it total compensation. This could be laid out in the employee handbook, so they know exactly how they accrue PTO and when they will be issued that opportunity. Other benefits would include retirement planning, health insurance, a health savings account, life insurance, gym memberships, all those sorts of things to help keep your employees happy and healthy will prevent them from lost wages and lost work. Payroll processing. So you've hired somebody, how the heck are you going to pay them? How often should you pay them? What should your pay cycle be? These are questions that employers often face, and then they end up getting that really bad headache because they just don't know the answer to all these questions. How much do you pay them? What taxes should you have to pay? And this is where partnering with a professional payroll service is really, really helpful to you guys. We can help have discussions with you of how often should you be paying your employees, what the pay cycle is going to be, when to submit hours and commissions and wages before the pay is issued, what taxes need to be filed. In the payroll world, there is such a deadline-oriented factor to what we do. We have so many deadlines with the IRS and with the government that we have to file certain reports. It's near impossible for an employer to know exactly when all these deadlines are without having a dedicated HR professional to help them with these. If you miss a deadline in filing for your payroll taxes, there are very, very hefty fines associated with that. It could be up $800 for missing a tax filing deadline. That would easily pay for a professional service. So kind of weigh those cost benefits. Can I do it myself? Should I do it myself? What's the benefit of partnering with a professional? Those are the sorts of things that you can have conversations with us about and see how we can help. Also, don't forget, you got to keep if you are doing payroll yourself, you got to keep those records for at least 3 years. If you outsource to someone who's a professional, we keep records for those all the time. So it was just it's another burden off of your back to know that we have your back. We're making sure your employees are paid accurately, on time, and all the appropriate taxes and records are being kept on time as well. Okay. Furthermore, we're just moving right along. We have legal requirements. So we have to comply with a lot of different laws and regulations when you open a business. And in HR, there are a lot of laws and regulations. So you must report any new employees to the Attorney General within 20 days of their hire date, not their start date, their hire date. So that can be different from different approaches. If you have 50 or more employees, anybody on the call with 50 or more employees, okay, you must comply with FMLA. This offers your employees up to 12 work weeks of unpaid leave for a certain number of reasons, and these are protected under the law. After that leave, the employee must be reinstated to their position or a position with equivalent pay and benefits. So you have to comply with this regulation as well. If you also have 50 or more employees, you should be offering health coverage. That's a pretty good benchmark. And again, Scott's going to go over some more details about when is a good point in your team size to start offering health coverage. You also have to comply with OSHA, as well as a lot of different regulations. So you have to keep your employees as well as your clientele safe on your property or any other job sites. Okay, those are a lot of regulations. Now we're going to get into the COVID stuff. Obviously, this is a very important conversation that's been happening for quite some time, and it does affect how people go back to work. And what kind of environment do you offer when you go back to work? There are services now that will regularly come and sanitize surfaces in your place of business, or and offer a lot of those things so that you can kind of have a seal saying this work site has been sanitized regularly so that we can mitigate any risk of disease spreading. So with 50 or fewer employees, some employers are now offering 2 weeks of sick pay on a voluntary basis for employees that contract COVID-19. So if you happen to contract it, go home, stay there for 2 weeks and hope we get better really soon, but they'll offer sick pay. So that's a different benefit that's available that some employers are offering. Employers with 50 or more employees are still required to abide by FMLA regulations. So that would be essentially a medical leave if they or their family member contract COVID-19 and they must go care for them. So if you have a larger company and there's a more severe case, maybe someone's hospitalized or needs to stay home for a longer period of time, then those employers must still comply with FMLA regulations. We're changing how we do things now. We have remote workplace options, as well as different protocols and standards of practice when we are in the office. So those are sorts of things that need to be clearly communicated to your team members. This may need that your employee handbook needs to be revised. We may need to redo job descriptions and regulate or stipulate what expectations come with the ability to work from home. What sort of reporting, what sort of accountability do we have if you're working from home? So that may need to be redefined and put in writing in your employee handbook so that expectation is very clearly defined for your team members, okay? Any questions on anything so far from the people on the call right now?
I have a question.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
one of the things is that are employers able to require the vaccination or to continue with the mask mandates?
That's a very good question. And that gets into a little bit more of a legal touchy subject. I'm not necessarily an HR attorney. We had a speaker last week who spoke to these sorts of things. And it's a lot of employer regulated options. So even though the state of Texas currently does not have a mask mandate, that means that we're not mandated to wear a mask. That also means that we're not mandated to not wear a mask. And as a business owner, that is left up to you to determine whether masks are required or optional within your business. So if you have people that cannot socially distance, that must be close to each other, then that may be a good idea to require a mask or pursue other mitigating strategies like plexiglass or regular sanitization services. So the only advice I can give as a non-legal professional would be to say, do your best to keep your employees and your clientele safe, to mitigate any kind of risk of infection or of spread, and then to contact an HR attorney if you do have questions about vaccine mandation, things like that. Okay, good question. Anything else before we move on to some money talks? Okay, let's move on to some money talks. All that HR stuff, that's complicated. That's not any fun. That's what we do. We offer a lot of great services to process your payroll for you, but we have HR databases, documents, and HR professionals on demand that can help small businesses. So that's why we kind of like to touch on these topics. It's just so much to cover. This is just kind of a high level examples. But what I do want to talk about is the COVID Relief Act that Congress recently passed includes a lot of changes to financial benefits available for small to mid-sized business owners. One is the employee retention credit. Anybody heard of the employee retention credit? Okay. Anybody heard of PPP?
Yes.
Yes, we've heard of PPP. So previously, if you had applied for and received PPP, you were not eligible for the employee retention credit. Well, recently Congress changed that. So now you are eligible for the employee retention credit. So we can go back and look at your revenues by quarter for 2020. And if you show a loss in revenue that meets the requirements, you can be eligible for up to $5,000 per employee to help recoup revenues that were lost in 2020. So if you have 5 employees, do the math. If you have 25 employees, do the math. There's a lot of money on the table. This is not a loan. This is not something that has to be forgiven. It's just they're trying to get people back to, small businesses especially, back to the point of pre-COVID revenues. Okay, let's see.
So I have a question on that. So
yes,
one is, oh, you do still have more on that? Okay.
No, go ahead. What is the question?
Well, it was your second point. How do I claim it?
Okay.
So,
yeah.
I'll let you finish that, and then I'll ask my
Great.
question.
So we can amend your 941s for you. So we can apply for that for you. So if you want to, even if you're not a payroll client of ours, we want this, you have access to this money. So we can do research for you and find out if you're eligible. We can do all the paperwork for you. When the money funds, which would take maybe 6 months or so, then we would take a small portion out for our fees at that time. So there's no obligation to be a customer of ours. There's no upfront costs. We just want you to have access to these funds. And you can try and do this yourself, or you can partner with us and we'll do all the paperwork for you. Okay.
So
also, they've extended it into 2021. So if your business is still recuperating losses in 2021, you're not quite back to pre-COVID revenues, then we can track you by quarter, and you could be eligible each quarter for $7,000 per employee per quarter in 2021. It's crazy, but it's also great because it helps those employers who've had lost revenue, who've had to take out loans. They can get this money and they can pay off their taxes. They can pay off any bad debts. They can invest in new equipment, do any repairs or expansions they've been wanting to do, hire more employees, offer benefits that they weren't able to offer before to keep their employees healthy. So there's great options out there for 2021 as well. So if you show 80% recuperation, which means you still have 20% losses, you could be eligible for $7,000 per employee per quarter in 2021. Huge. Let's see. PPP loans changed again. They extended the deadline to May 31st.
ERC?
Yes, sir.
So the ERC, when you submit the adjustment to the 941, it's submitted to the IRS, correct? Because it's
Correct.
based on a tax credit. And so when processed, ideally approved and processed, right? I'm sure they're confirming your qualifications as they get the adjustment, or is it just a matter of the IRS processing that form?
Well, we have certain equations and algorithms where we plug in the previous revenue and the current revenue. And then also if you received PPP,
Yeah.
we plug that in and it nets down your amount that you qualify for. So if you qualify for a maximum of $7,000, and say you're just an S corp, you're the only person on payroll at your S corp, then that's $7,000. You receive some PPP. They're going to net that down a little bit to accommodate for the PPP you already received, and
Right.
then they will fund your ERC.
Got it. So even though you do qualify, even though you got PPP, the having received PPP may net it down by a certain percentage.
Yes,
Gotcha.
but previously you were not eligible to apply for ERC
Right.
if you apply for PPP. So this is the big change, is that now you're able to apply for both.
Gotcha. And
Okay.
then basically it would just come as a check from the IRS, I assume? Is that
Yes.
a credit check? Yeah. Great.
Yes.
Excellent.
Just like your stimulus checks that came to your home.
Terrific.
Well, we give the bank information and it gets funded to your bank.
And that's
Just like the
great that
PPP
you're
funds into
offering
your
the
bank.
service. And it's great that you're offering the service to process that even without being a client. So
Yes.
yes, that's great.
Yes.
Thank you.
We are here to help even if you aren't our clients. We don't want our small business people to leave money on the table. So the PPP loans are changing again. If you need help applying for PPP, even if you have not done round 1 or round 2, you can still apply. And we can help with that process too. It's great to have a local bank, a smaller bank that if you have a relationship with your banker, these tend to go through a little bit faster than the larger banks. Yes, ma'am.
What are some of the qualifications to receive those PPP loans?
Oh, there's a lot. But basically, if you show lost revenue or show that your business was affected by COVID shutdowns, there's not a lot of restrictions, and a lot of businesses are qualifying even if they didn't think that they would. So it never hurts to take a look, talk to your banker, talk to your CPA, talk to your trusted advisors, and see what options are available for you, and just go for it. I come from the philosophy of it never hurts to ask. If the answer is no, you don't qualify, then at least you know. But if as an employer, if you're trying to make ends meet, you're trying to get your rent paid, you're trying to get your payroll processed, and you're not leaving anything for yourself, there may be something to help you. Good questions. There's last thing. So if there's a shuttered venue operators grant coming soon, this is going to be additional funds for those that operate venues. So performance venues, theaters, movie theaters, live venues, wedding venues, those sorts of things. There's going to be a special grant for them. And there's also a special application for restaurant owners. That's going to be for the restaurant industry to help them get back to good. So the SBA is really doing all that they can to get small and mid-sized businesses back to pre-COVID levels. So we're here to help you just kind of research and see what available things are there for you. So the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, as well as the Restaurant Owners Grant, is coming soon. So if you want to stay tuned to these things, you can follow your payroll department on LinkedIn or on Facebook, and I'll be updating the news feed if any new developments come out, just to keep everybody informed on any updates. So I know I've gone over a lot of different things because there's a lot of different things to cover. You remember that business owner from the first slide with his hands in his heads and he's just down the laptop because there's just too much to take care of. Well, there's people who can help you take care of those things. So talk to your CPAs, talk to your bank, to your bankers, talk to your payroll department. There are trusted advisors available there to help you out, to get you to expand your team at the right time with the right people, and then offer the right benefits and the right culture to keep them there so that they can continue to help your business grow. That's what we're here to do as well. We are your trusted advisors. Like I said, we're owned by Twyla and Kelly Walton. And Twyla is also a CPA that serves small businesses. So if you're doing it yourself, or if you're working with a large company that doesn't know you when you call the 800 number, please do give us a call. We'd love to know more about your small business and love to support you in everything that you do. We are a small business. We serve small businesses. And thank you again to the Veterans Chamber of Commerce for inviting me to speak to you guys today. Thank you for your service as well.
Thanks a lot, Sarah. Do you help businesses outside of Texas, and can you help remotely?
Yes, yes, we do.
Okay, that's awesome.
As long as there's an I'll put my confirmation contact information up there, and then I'll stop sharing the screen in just a little bit so everybody can take a minute to get that down. We are based here in DFW. We're in downtown Plano, Texas, but we serve businesses all across the country. We do like to have a personal relationship with them. So if they're locally based and then have multiple locations, that's a great thing. We like to kind of know who they are and be able to go and patronize their businesses as well and give qualified referrals. That's our favorite thing to do. But currently, as I said before, we are currently processing payroll in over 20 states. So there's my contact information. You guys can get that down, and I will turn it over to my new friend, Scott with US Health Advisors.
I appreciate it, Sarah. Yeah, I've got a few businesses in mind already that I'd love to share your information with. So I'll get with you offline, make sure it's in the same states that you guys work in, and see if we can't, become great referral partners.
That'd be lovely. Yeah, we're qualified to do payroll in all 50 states. Just saying we actively have clients in 20.
Right. Yeah, with COVID and the changes of how one-on-one, face-to-face is kind of, foreign these days, it's you kind of can expand your business, and that's awesome.
Exactly.
All right, so I'll grab the screen if I can. All right, so good afternoon to everyone. Appreciate the opportunity to speak again and to provide some information and hopefully some clarity in regards to small business health insurance. Sarah did an awesome job explaining some critical important information for small businesses. I intend only to add on to her awesome presentation. If you were in our meeting a few weeks back, I did a detailed presentation on businesses, my business, and the current issues with today's healthcare. In order to not be redundant and reteach the same material, I definitely tailored this presentation to focus specifically on the small business group health insurance. I apologize if any of the information seems repetitive, but the same issues that affect individual health insurance are the same issues that affect group health insurance. Nonetheless, I'm going to put the facts out on the table. I'm going to give my advice as a licensed health advisor and leave my personal and political opinions out of it. So moving on, and just give me the thumbs up, Irvin, if you can see my screen and my presentation. Awesome. All right.
Great.
All right. So most of you know I'm Scott Neidecker. I am a member of this chamber. I'm a licensed health advisor. I was in the United States Marine Corps from 2006 to 2016. That's where I flew the Mighty Snake, the AH-1 Whiskey Super Cobra. After being part of the best organization in the world and having the opportunity to fly the greatest military aircraft of all time. And I don't hear any of my Army, Navy, and Air Force brothers and sisters speaking up right now. So it must be true and that they completely agree.
Yeah,
and that's what they get for not being here live. After that, I decided to go into business for myself. So now if I have a conflict with authority, it's I have to go have a conversation in the mirror. As a side note, I will add, my wife doesn't seem too impressed that I voted myself top salesman of the office 8 months in a row now. I know I'm the only one, but that's still, she should be impressed, and so should you all. Thank you, Irving.
For that.
All right, as a licensed health advisor, I can sell and advise health insurance in any of my licensed states. I'm contracted with US Health Advisors. I currently have access to the absolute best health plans in the country. When I was initially getting my state licensing, I went ahead and got licensed in serving small businesses as well. So I'm officially a licensed small business health plan specialist, as well as a licensed agent. So jumping right into it, let's take a start at looking at what your options are for healthcare in the small business. Throughout the presentation, I want you to look through the lens of a small business owner. So you are a small business owner right now, if you are actually or not. Don't look at it as an individual employee. So when we look at health insurance, we come across really two main options. Now, of note, there are more options for business owners. They do become increasingly confusing and sometimes a option of last resort. So I'm really going to focus on these two most common options that business owners may be familiar with. So the first one, the traditional group health plan, and this is by far the most common. If you've ever worked for a business of any size outside of the military and was offered insurance, this is likely the type of insurance you had. Prior to 2014, there was generally no problem with these plans. They typically were your best option. Moving on to the second option is the less common and the private underwritten group plan. These are usually only found through licensed health advisors like myself because they require underwriting. The traditional group plan is usually found online. Usually a Google search will pop up eHealth or something like that. You'll put an inquiry and then you'll have a broker contact you, and you usually sign up through that broker, and that's how you get those traditional group plans. The most important aspect to know right now about the traditional group plans is that these are the federally regulated in accordance with the Affordable Care Act or the ACA, and they must have minimum essential coverage. In contrast, the private underwritten insurer plans, they have chosen not to participate in the marketplace, and they therefore do not maintain minimum essential coverage, but has major medical benefits, and it's considered quote unquote accepted benefits plan by the ACA. This is a key point that I'm going to highlight in a minute, and is definitely the most important difference between the two. But before I get into those specifics of the Obamacare, I want to show you some of the requirements that each of these may have. Starting with the traditional group health, there are a few must-haves or regulations that you must accept before you qualify for one of these plans. First, you got to have one qualified full-time employee, and no, it can't be you as the owner. Second, of all of your employees, 70% must participate. So that basically means 70% of your employees must sign up for the health insurance policy when it's offered to them. In most states, with most insurers, the business is usually required to pay at least 50% of each employee's monthly premium. If the employer wants to pay more than 50, that's fine, but it must be equal across all employees. So if you offer 60% of an employee's health premium to say one of your salesmen, you must offer 60% to all salesmen in your company. As you can imagine, health insurance plans and prices vary greatly between different organizations. The larger the company, the better usually the coverage and price. Large companies are able to pull together more people and offer better rates. When generating a quote, that insurance company will spread out the risk between all of the employees of the business. So the more the employees, the less the risk per employee. Small organizations not only have less risk sharing among employees within the company, but they also tend to have less bargaining power. If you yourself or any loved one of yours has ever worked for, let's say, Walmart or Starbucks, some of those big guys, you've seen or understand the bargaining power some of these companies have and the benefits that come along with being a huge company. An aspect most people tend to overlook, at least until COVID-19, because it wiped out countless amounts of small businesses, is that the company or the owner of the company is the policy holder. He's the only policy holder of the group health insurance. No employee can make changes or adjustments to their health insurance policy. The only one able to make these type of changes is the policy holder, aka the owner or the decision maker. This is a big deal because employees have no say on the specific aspects of their coverage, and their employment is directly linked to their policy. So if you move from full-time to part-time, you will likely lose health insurance benefits. If you are terminated, laid off, decide to move to another company, you're going to lose your health insurance. We all understand this concept, but maybe didn't quite realize the significant impact until these massive layoffs occurred last April. Oops, sorry. The price or premium the insurer determines is based off of risk factors of the entire group. So the insurer is going to look at the age, the gender, the occupation, the location of every single employee, and then they're going to determine the average risk for that group. So the average is what everyone pays as their monthly premium. It's the same price. So a 20-year-old healthy male will pay the same premium as a 60-year-old unhealthy woman. And unhealthy and healthy is just quote unquote my terms using in the insurer's eyes. So that risk is shared among the entire team. So that's lucky for the elderly unhealthy individual, not so lucky for the younger healthy individual. As stated earlier, since the employee is not the policy holder, you can't personalize the coverage, so everyone has the same exact plan. This includes the deductibles, co-pays, networks, max out of pockets, etc. So this is something that business owners don't really consider, but just think of the simple restriction or inability to personalize your plan is going to differ greatly between two different employees in your company. So a tenured office manager is likely going to have a higher salary. She's going to have more money on hand. She's going to have more money in the reserves. You know, meeting a $7,000 deductible because she broke her leg is probably more obtainable than, let's say, an 18-year-old just graduated from high school, no money in his reserves, no savings account, right? It's great that the 18-year-old has coverage, but they still might not meet that deductible, have that cash on hand in case of an accident. Something not listed, but extremely important to understand is what happens when you have an on-the-job accident too. Some of you on this call may have experienced this with on-the-job accidents, but they're not covered with traditional group plans. The insurer will decide if the accident was on the job, and then if it was, they're going to require the owner to use workman's compensation to pay for those. So the traditional group health plan usually will not pay for on-the-job injuries. Lastly, and most importantly, in my opinion, is the traditional group health insurers must follow the rules laid out by the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare or ACA. One of the biggest regulations that the federal government in 2014 put in place was the addition of mandatory coverages, and technically speaking, it's minimum essential coverage. Minimum essential coverage is what the federal government said all insurers who participate in the marketplace and want to be recognized as an ACA approved healthcare must cover. Now there's a lot more than these three. There's generally 10 categories of mandatory coverages. I listed just the three most impactful to individuals and small businesses, in my opinion. Regardless of if you want these or not, regardless if you are physically able to use these or not, you're going to pay for these coverages. So drug and alcohol rehab services, mental health services, regardless if you've never touched a drop of alcohol, regardless if you want to pay towards alcohol rehab. And another category is maternity and newborn care. Every biological male on this plan is going to be paying towards maternity coverage. Everyone will be paying towards contraceptive and sterilization procedures, regardless of their inability or desire to get pregnant or not. Now, don't get me wrong, these mandatory coverages are not necessarily wrong or unnecessary. I don't mean to say that, but in fact, these are great and these are crucial for those individuals that need them. However, strictly speaking, from a financial point of view, not everyone needs these. So why pay and increase your premiums for something not everyone's going to use or need? Moving on to the private insurer, the private sector, a whole different ballgame here. So we are not regulated by the federal ACA mandates. So we are regulated, of course. We can't just, fly by night, shoot from the hip type insurance. But they chose not to become, marketplace ACA insurers. So we are not regulated by those mandates. The first difference between the private and the traditional is every employee is a policy holder. So the employer doesn't hold on to the entire policy of the group. Rather, everyone is in charge of their own policy. So everyone has the ability to personalize their plan as needed. Private market plans don't require mandatory minimums, like making the employer contribute a certain percentage to the employee's plan. And there's no 70% participation requirement for employees to get a plan if offered. So believe it or not, the employer can pick and choose who on their team they want to contribute to and how much of that premium they want to pay for. So for example, if the employer can choose to offer insurance to his employees, he can choose to offer insurance to those employees who have been employed for, let's say, a certain amount of time, weeks, months, years. He can decide if he's going to do that or not. The employer can also tailor that the contribution amount to that employee, unique to that employee, based off of, let's say, the value he brings to the business. So for instance, an example, an employer can incentivize a top performer in his business with a higher percentage of contribution towards his healthcare. Or an employer can offer a new employee or a new recruit who would potentially be a game changer for the business, even larger or 100% contribution to their premium. So that's how that's very, very unique and very flexible for the small business owner. Since each person is their own policyholder, the prices will differ between each person, and that's based on their unique situation. There's no one size fits all, and there's no one price across the board. You can expect that generally young and healthy is going to have a lower premium than older and unhealthy. That 19-year-old warehouse worker is not penalized now for working for a group of, let's say, older and unhealthy individuals. In the insurer's eyes, the risk different. There is a significant risk difference between a 19-year-old and, let's say, a 60-year-old, and the prices will reflect. Since the individual is the policyholder, their insurance isn't directly tied to their employment. So if the employer terminates the employee, he's laid off, decides to quit, whatever the case may be, go to another company, they still are the policyholder of their insurance policy. Right? They don't lose coverage. Literally, the only change that's going to take place is a banking and routing information. Now, since the employer is not paying or contributing to their health insurance policy, there's a change on who's paying for it, and that's it. Rates don't go up. You don't lose coverage. There's no 18-month extension. It's just not the case. You own your policy. Biggest difference between the two types, and you could probably tell from the slide, is you're not forced to meet those minimum essential coverages. So most of these plans are called in the name sickness, accident, and wellness. They're not mental health, maternity, contraceptive. So employers are not forcing their employees to pay for coverage they don't want or need, or even physically able to use. This proves to be a huge cost saver when you're going with this type of insurer, and it helps to broaden the network that's allowed. So a quick comparison of the two, if you kind of put them side by side now, since I gave you a little insights on both. Your traditional group plans will be guaranteed issued policy. This is by far the biggest advantage they have. Guaranteed issued means no one can get denied, regardless of their health conditions. So this was the biggest change to healthcare, in my opinion, in 2014, with the creation of Obamacare. This is also the single biggest cost on the marketplace for insurers. Now we can talk the effects of this policy change for hours and how it fundamentally changed healthcare, but I'm going to skip that and we're going to just keep moving on. I'm going to leave you with a thought though. What happens when literally millions of individuals flood the insurance companies overnight with critical and terminal illnesses? In order for the insurance companies to stay afloat, they got to make some changes. Now, since they are incurring these extreme expenses, and if you're thinking to yourself, well, they got to increase premiums, deductibles, co-insurances, narrow the size of the networks, you're right. So big takeaway, guaranteed issue allows everyone on the plan, regardless of health conditions, medications, and pre-existing conditions. Moving on. Traditional group plans can appear very simple to the employer. When they're trying to make the decision, they're offering everyone the same plan, the same price. These cookie cutter plans can seem attractive, And to the decision maker, they may just want to just get it done and over with and continue on with their day. And I can understand that. The bigger the company, the better the rates and premiums per person, no doubt. More people to spread the risk across, more people to balance out the average. In my experience, when the total amount of employees in a small business reaches somewhere between 15 and 20 employees, the traditional group plan makes more sense from a financial point of view. Lastly, traditional group plans must cover those mandatory coverages that we just talked about. If there are members on your team who you know are pregnant or planning to become pregnant in the near future, if you have team members that need drug alcohol rehab, major mental health therapy, not that you would know and not that you can ask, but this may be the plan for them. And it's going to help get the employees on your team the coverage that they need. On the flip side, under the private plans, you're going to find much cheaper and affordable plans, and that's per person and that's per group. The plans are flexible, they're tailored to the needs of the individual. There's no need for the 70% of employees to participate. There's no need for the employer to contribute 50% to everyone's premium. They can decide to pay more or less. Any contribution made on this side is now deductible at the end of the year. The employer saves money every month, and then they're going to get with the lower cost premiums, and then they're going to get the savings at the end of the year with the tax deduction. The employer has complete control on who and how he can incentivize with this health insurance, allowing the business decision makers to incentivize without raising the salary, or hourly rate. And lastly, this type of plan removes the significant amount of what I call a moral dilemma, and that's when deciding when you're going to keep or terminate an employee and you're thinking about will they lose or keep coverage. That moral dilemma is eliminated with private plans since the employee is the policyholder. So we did the pros, we have to do the cons, we have to be fair. And you can kind of see the difference now with the cons when they're compared against each other. Again, you can't personalize your plan. With traditional group plans, the cost for each individual is likely well above where it would be if you had an individual underwritten plan. Smaller the group, the more costly. The employer is unable to provide health benefits for key employees without providing it equally across the group. And lastly, as you can see there, the ever-increasing prices of Obamacare. So what you think is expensive this year is going to be excessively expensive in 2 years. The big insurance companies who participate in the marketplace, they continuously lose millions a year. Okay, and it's not just because a guaranteed issue and mandatory coverages, but it's something else we didn't talk about. But you probably have assumed, and it's those reduced premiums through government subsidies and the free healthcare that individuals get if they qualify because they're a certain percent under the poverty rate. Okay, the ACA requires the marketplace insurers to reduce the out-of-pocket costs for people with low or no incomes and a certain percent under the federal poverty level. So to cover their losses, the insurers have to increase the premiums for those who are paying for the health insurance. Just imagine the impacts, and there's no numbers out yet because it's still happening and it's going to happen. But imagine the impacts from the coronavirus shutdowns, the unemployment rates, and the people filing for government subsidies and Medicaid, and what that's going to do to large insurance companies in the future. Okay, so we looked at these pros and cons. I'm not going to tell you what's the most important factor for you and what makes sense for your business. So I do not intend to do that. I'm just kind of giving you the information I see on my side and what I've researched, but everyone's going to have a unique perspective. So, ask yourself, what's the most important for your small business after reviewing those pros and cons and hearing a little bit more about the of what each insurer can do and they can't do. Is it flexibility? Can you incentivize employees? Is that what's most important? Is it the guaranteed issue? Is it getting everyone on the same exact plan, paying the same price? Or is it the money? Is it the monthly or the annual? In my point of view and in my experience and what I've seen, 9 out of 10 times it's going to be the money. It's going to be the cost. Okay. And that's not to say that your business is that, But that's exactly what I've seen. 9 out of 10 easily. The business owner is going to make a decision based off cost. The business owners who decide otherwise usually don't understand the true impact of the monthly and annual premiums, the tax deductions, the individual costs, out-of-pocket expense. In fact, a survey conducted by the Principal Financial Wellbeing Index for business owners, they surveyed 500 business owners and companies ranging from 2 to 10,000 employees, asked what those top 5 concerns were after COVID-19. And, sure enough, the cost of healthcare made the top 5 list. So I know that's on everyone's mind. So every business owner is going to have a unique challenge, unique personnel on their team, unique priorities. Let me show you a real quick quote of a small business here in DFW. I made this within the last 30 days. It was probably less than 2 weeks ago, but I pulled this from Blue Cross Blue Shield. So this is a property management company, to leave their proper name out of it. But you can imagine a lot of these companies have the same type of makeup. It had 8 employees. They wanted to provide health insurance for all 8 and 3 dependents that were from the 8 employees. The employees ranged from 23 to 56. The employer wanted to pay 50% of the monthly premium. So we selected a PPO network, which is of course what everyone wants. And I selected the Blue Cross Blue Shield, quote unquote, self-proclaimed bestseller is what they had on the market to kind of show as a quote, $742 per employee. So they went across, estimated the risk, and they came up with the price per employee. If the employer contributes 50% of the employee's cost, that's $371. So $371 per employee now has insurance, but that's what they're paying towards their insurance. So let me stop here and help you understand what healthcare should cost. And should is definitely in air quotes on that one, just based off of what the market says. Health insurance premiums can generally be estimated by putting a 0 at the end of your age. Again, this is a ballpark number, so it can fluctuate on both ends, but it's going to give you a starting point. Okay, so a 23-year-old, $230. So a 23-year-old shouldn't be paying more than $250, $300 for health insurance. Of course, if he or she wants the best of the best, supplemental protections, and of course, do as he pleases. But the insurance companies are going to quote him around $250 for basic major medical needs. In this quote, if we cut his insurance premium in half, which is what the employer was willing to do, he's still paying over $100 of what he should be paying if he had an individual plan. Obviously, you should be shaking your head. Doesn't make sense, right? That's more than $100 that guy has a month, and $1,200 a year. That's a lot of money. Now taking a step back from him and kind of looking at it at the macro view, the impact on the business. For the team, it's over $35,000 a year to provide 50% of their employees' health coverage premiums. Now, I'll pause for effect for the business owners. I just imagine what you can do with $35,000 extra a year in your business. And remember, this number is not tax deductible because you're getting your tax benefits and your monthly premiums when you go with traditional. All right, so we're kind of rounding third base. So outside of annual costs, which we've already said is very important and ranks very high with business owners, let's talk benefits of offering health insurance to your team through a private health insurer. So first on my list is the tax benefits. You'll be able to deduct the annual contributions to your team's health insurance at the end of the year. You're going to incentivize employees' compensation package with health benefits instead of salary increase. So then you're going to get the tax benefits from reduced payroll taxes as well. With respect to gaining your employees' loyalty and increasing their retention, offering health benefits is going to help prevent workers from finding jobs elsewhere. You'll be encouraging your employees' loyalty, increasing retention rate, and all without increasing their salary or hourly wage. Glassdoor survey 2015 showed that nearly 4 in 5 employees would prefer benefits more than a pay raise. And 40% of those valued health insurance benefits. There's a direct link between providing healthcare benefits and improving your hiring and recruitment strategy. LendingTree survey, 33% turned down job offers due to lack of benefits. Another Glassdoor observed 57% job candidates said benefits and perks are among the top considerations before even looking at a job. And I promise this is the last statistic I'm going to throw your way, but a Harvard Business Review noted 88% of respondents said being offered health insurance would tip them towards choosing a lower paying job than a higher paying job without benefits. Okay, and the last thing I'll share, couldn't find a statistic on this one, but I have personal experience, and a lot of you probably have. I was with a management training team with a large plumbing wholesale company. Saw a lot of plumbing companies come through there, work directly with the business owners of those plumbing companies. I'd say the plumbing companies that offered the benefits, health benefits, seem to have a higher caliber employee when I compared it to the other plumbing companies that didn't offer the benefits. I know that sounds common sense, and you've probably seen that, but I saw it over a wide range of companies in different states. So between Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas. The individuals looking to get a set amount, let's say, quote unquote, an individual looking to get a set amount for a given job. So a young plumber looking to just get paid for one job without restrictions and contracts. He's a completely different employee than one looking for, let's say, stability, long-term benefits, within one company, in my opinion. Okay, I'm not saying anything's wrong with either one of those individuals. All I'm pointing out is I noticed factors like loyalty, longevity, quality of work, customer service, and I know all of those are linked to how an employee or individual perceives their employer and the company they work for, no doubt. This could be unique to the plumbing industry, I know, but my gut tells me that a lot of service technicians have similar behaviors and traits. So here's my call to action. Go to my website, send me an email, give me a call, let me help you find your individual and group health insurance. My advice is always free. I have a team of referral partners that helps fill the gaps in certain areas that I can't specifically help in. If an Obamacare plan is the best option for you, I'll let you know it. I'll show it to you, and I'll even help you get signed up. It's easy. Okay. If a private health insurance plan is best for you, I'll let you know all your options. That way you have peace of mind when you're making that decision, and know it's truly the right decision. I truly appreciate everyone's time, and I appreciate everyone watching this that wasn't here live. And I do appreciate Irving and Christy for having me on. Thanks.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So is there, so for our chamber, and this might be not the right time to bring it up, but just to throw it out there, right? So if one of those benefits that we want to look into, and we're probably not ready for that this year, but maybe in the future, if this is an option, as a chamber, is there like a group health insurance that we can offer our membership? Is that a possibility?
Not through private underwritten plans. What you could do for some of the policies that I have access to, it would just be several different individual plans. And if there was some sort of singular pocket we were pulling the monies from, that could be set up easy. But again, it would just be individual policies and plans coming from one pocket. That's fine. But your traditional group plan isn't gonna allow that.
Okay. Well, the reason why I was thinking that was because if we can all put together, right, as business owners, and then create one plan and then offer it, it would be a little bit less expensive as a group, right? So
You're right. That would be something that we could definitely talk offline on. But when you think group rates, like quote unquote group rate, we bundled the package and got a cheaper deal, it doesn't really apply for the private underwritten side. You're going to get the same exact price if you were an individual, or if Christy, a mother of 20 members in a group, believe it or not. And it's because it's already just based off of your risk factor personally. You're not really saving. The price is already drastically different. You're already saving a ton.
Right.
But yeah, if you wanted to come out of one pocket, we can make it happen.
Okay. Well, for the future.
Yes, right.
Well, any last minute questions from our guests?
I had a question for Scott, actually. You kind of mentioned aspects like mental health and all those sorts of things earlier. Given the fact that we want our teams and our staff and our employees to remain healthy so that they can stay at work and be their best person at work and at home, do you see more employers opting in for plans that offer mental health services, gym membership discounts, preventative care like chiropractic and things like that? Do you see a shift in the industry in what not only employers are asking for their plans, but also what the health insurance companies are starting to make more accessible in the era of preventative care and mental health?
Yeah, I absolutely do. It's a huge concern, but I'll also share that it's a huge concern up until the point they see how much it's going to cost, and then they start prioritizing cost over benefits like that. So yeah, they're always asking about it. They always want it. The buck usually stops with the price. And for private insurers, so just quick peek behind the curtain, you're going to need to be somewhat healthy to get on those plans. The insurer wants to keep you healthy. They don't want you to have something that was unseen and not diagnosed. So they do incentivize wellness big time. First dollar benefits, no deductibles, going to your doctor yearly, and sometimes even make out with money in your pocket, believe it or not. And it's to incentivize you for exactly that. And that does include mental health. When we talk mental health on the ACA, we're talking major mental health, where doctor, hospital visits, psychiatrist visits, not necessarily just a general practitioner talking on the phone.
Sure.
Those benefits are out there. Great question.
Good. Well, I'm happy to see that, because I think that, we've all been through trauma one way or the other during COVID, and especially since we're speaking to a veteran crew, and everyone has experienced negative impact because of COVID. I think it's something that we need to make more available, make more accessible, and remove any kind of stigma around saying, okay, if you need somebody to talk to, there's benefits available that will help you get somebody to talk to. If medication is the way to go, or some kind of mediation services to help keep you well, that is the priority.
Absolutely. And what's great too to see is that a lot of the mental health is now teledoc. So an app on your phone, and we'll get you set up, and you talk to someone in like less than 10 minutes, and free. It's part of your health insurance.
Very good.
I'm
glad to hear that's accessible.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much to you guys for being here today. I definitely learned a lot, and I will be reaching out to Sarah later. I had a couple of questions for HR for our chamber in particular.
Sure.
So I'll reach out to you later about that. Irving, do you have anything?
No, thank you so much. That was a fantastic presentation. You guys are such a wealth of information and everything I'd hope you would deliver for us. So thank you so much. I appreciate you both.
Thanks, Irving.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Kelly?